One, Paris is burning, but in America, in Boulder, Colorado, people are burning. A terrorist armed with Molotov cocktails attacks Jews in Colorado. What does it say about illegal immigration, radical ideology, not just taking over Western Europe, but right here at home? Two, there's a dream, a romantic vision of entrepreneurship. It's something that many of us go to bed and wake up thinking about and might increasingly have to as jobs are turned over to AI. But what does it take to be a successful entrepreneur? Well, it takes shoveling crap. With Mike and Cass Lazerow. Three, transgender athlete wins in California. A CNN anchor loses trying to have a debate about men in women's sports. It is the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel, the Fox News Facebook page. Every Monday through Thursday at 12 o'clock Eastern Time. Set a reminder, subscribe to our YouTube page, Will Cain Show. Jump into the comments section. You become a member of the Willisha. If you're listening on terrestrial radio, head over to your phone, pull up Spotify, pull up Apple, hit subscribe. If you think it's so well-deserved, leave us a 5-star review, but we can ensure that you're with us whenever and however you like by subscribing to the Will Cain Show. It is summer. It's not officially summer, but I've decided I don't know about solstices, and I don't know about meteorological calendars, but I know that what it feels like. If I could organize the calendar, this is what it would look like. Winter is December, January, and February. Spring is March, April, and May. Summer is June, July, and August, and fall is September, October, November. I think that's how we all live in our minds. So why do we have to wait till something like June 21st to say, oh, it's now officially summer? We've all been in summer mindset for 3 weeks by the time we get to official summer. And with summer, we have official intern season. For those of you on our social media platforms, you've probably seen I introduced our high school intern for the couple of weeks here in Dallas, Texas. Today, starting in New York City, we have an intern from the University of Texas. And it is the internship of my son that I want to start with here today. Here's a question for you, two-a-days. Here's a question for you, tinfoil Pat. My son, 17 years old, junior in high school, is set to begin his same internship as the high school intern, classmate of my son, that we have working now on the Will Cain Show. Bit of a big moment here at home. A lot of conversation about outfits. Do you have work attire? What is work attire in 2025? Do you have the right shoes? Do you wear a blazer? Can you pull off a golf shirt with khakis? A lot of good questions. You know, he's going to be interning at a financial firm. And this firm is big. That's not meant as a point of pride. That's context for the question I want to ask you guys here today. Not a firm of 5, 10, or 20 guys, but hundreds. We do know I am friends with the guy that runs the financial company, and my son has an awesome opportunity to get an overview of a lot of different businesses because this particular institution is involved in everything from publicly traded companies to venture capital to hedge to real estate. So he'll get a good overview, is what I hope, of the economy. And for a kid that doesn't yet completely know what he wants to do, I think it's a good place to begin to look at the inner workings of capitalism, of a market. So, wakes up today, a lot of lectures. I give a lot of sermons. I'm good at it. In fact, I was told last night, fewer lectures, fewer sermons about managing your schedule. When are you going to lift? When are you going to train? This is a 9-to-5 internship for a month. And, you know, you got to kick, you got to punt, you got to train at soccer. When are you going to do all this? This is big boy stuff. This is adult stuff, like organizing a schedule, right? Yes, okay, this is what I've got. You know, it's very different than the teenage summer. I'm going to lift today. Okay, what does that mean? When? And by the time you get to about 7 o'clock at night, it's like, oh, yeah, I need to lift. Yeah, well, we had a good 10 hours to think about this all day long. 10 hours that was lost possibly into Minecraft. So I got to say, the boy was on it. You know, he was on it. He was ready to go on this internship. So here's my question for you here today. Is it better to show up early or late to an internship? Seems like a layup, but we'll go ahead and let you score the bucket. Better to show up early or late to an internship?
I was going to say, is that a trick question or I mean, absolutely early. I'm early to everything. When I start a job, I'm early.
You want to be like,
Like
it's
I
like
said,
a party.
layup.
You want to show up, at the right time. So it could be a few minutes late. You don't want to, temper. You want to
Seem
temper
too eager?
expectations.
You don't want to seem too eager,
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I totally disagree with that, Patrick. It's not. There's no casually cool in the work environment. There's no like, I don't want to be the first one at the party. That's not how it works. You want to be 15 minutes early to an appointment. But I let you score your bucket because it's easy. Now here's the question: what is too early to show up for an internship where the returns have diminished? And now it's like, okay, he's on the ball. He showed up 15 minutes early versus this is awkward. He's super early to his internship.
Are we talking first day or the entire time?
First day.
First day, I'm going half hour. Is the right
Half
amount.
hour.
Is the right amount.
Okay. Right.
That's-
and obviously
that's a
the
bit
inverse of
much.
that. The half hour late would be incredibly
You're done.
disappointing. Yeah. You're agreed. Maybe there's some forgiveness for a high school intern, but you're right. Yeah, I'm really disturbed at Patrick's answer so far, for the record. Like, I agree with you to it.
that was
It's
a joke.
half hour. And you're saying that's disturbing. Okay, well, here's the final question. Go ahead. I'm listening.
I've had
Tinfoil.
I've gone to interviews at a big financial institution, and I got hired on eventually. I was there 45 minutes early for the interview and sat in my car until 10 minutes beforehand. You don't go in,
Yeah, you do.
you know.
You got to figure
you
out
don't
where
go
to go, who to talk to, what desk to go to, what
Exactly.
floor to go to. You
10
need
minutes is good.
Right.
I gave myself 10 minutes.
There could be prep
But I was
work.
there 45 minutes early.
there could be
still.
prep work you need to do, all these things.
I agree with Dan
Signing
again.
papers.
I mean, you don't sit in your car and kill that 30 minutes. You don't. You go in, and if you awkwardly sit on the couch in the lobby for 20 minutes, fine.
Sure.
But you got to the right place. George W. Bush used to have a saying, which I like, is if you're not 5 minutes early, you're late. So that's the way it works in a work environment. All right, so half hour is the limits on awkward earliness on your first day for work. How would it sound to you if you were 1 week early to your internship?
I don't. That cannot be true. That's showing a little extra effort.
Is that bad?
That just shows you don't like read emails or follow a calendar.
Correct. The kid was on it. He had his attire put together. He was ready to rock and roll. He got up early. He left in his
for
car.
him.
He measured traffic. He was going to be there on time. And he got there 1 week
Oh
early.
no. That's such a gut punch when you get there. You're like, oh no.
The kid did not read his email correctly. You're right. It did not start June 2nd. It started June 9th. And he had to be told in the lobby, are you sure it starts this week? And he's like, let me double check my email. And he promptly tucked his tail between his legs and came back home. Shortest work day ever.
It's much
1
better
week
than
early.
a week late, though. I'll be honest with you. That's way better.
I think we can agree. I do think that's true. 1 week late, you're fired, even from an internship. You're not in on this internship. 1 week early, okay, some eagerness and perhaps some lack of attention to detail on the start date, but I think we can all, say no harm, no foul. We'll move forward. See you in a week.
Oh, poor buddy.
So there you go. Want to make sure you read your emails. At 1 week, you have gone definitely into the awkward range of showing up for your first day of work. All right, let's get to it all today with story number 1. A 45-year-old Egyptian illegal immigrant overstayed his visa in the United States by several months, has now been charged, interestingly, with murder. No one yet has died in an attack in Boulder, Colorado. Something like 6 to 8 people, 52 to 88 years old, attacked by this man yelling, "Free Palestine," armed with Molotov cocktails. He managed to bring to America something that we've all too often seen in other parts of the world, and most concerningly, at increasing levels in Western Europe. Here is the FBI telling you about what went down in Boulder, Colorado.
I'm able to confirm there are 6 victims, ages 67 to 88. All of them have been transported to local hospitals. This attack happened at a regularly scheduled weekly peaceful event. Witnesses are reporting that the subject used a makeshift flamethrower and threw an incendiary device into the crowd. The suspect was heard to yell, "Free Palestine," during the attack. The subject has been identified as Mohammed Sabri Solomon, and he's 45 years old. The FBI is processing the crime scene in the subject vehicle and interviewing key witnesses. We're assisting Boulder Police in providing technical, analytic, and additional forensic resources. As a result of these preliminary facts, it is clear that this is a targeted act of violence, and the FBI is investigating this as an act of terrorism.
An act of terrorism. This man then stalked around the grounds after he had thrown this device, ignited his makeshift flamethrower, stalked around, as mentioned, yelled "Free Palestine," and interacted with people there in Boulder. Watch.
We're here, brother. We're here. We can't do nothing about that. We can't do nothing.
We can!
Not here.
You have to answer this!
Not here, bro.
You're not!
I'm taking video right now.
You have to answer
He was wearing an orange suit with like something on his mask.
Spraying alcohol.
Spraying alcohol, but what he did was he made it look like he was here.
He's making Molotov cocktails.
And for us,
Well, we can't do it when he's got Molotov cocktails in
if
there.
you are fighting, you have to...
That's what he's got right here. Is Molotov cocktails.
Stalking around without his shirt. Interestingly, a trans flag flying. One would assume, at least in their minds, to symbolize tolerance in front of a building in Colorado, sitting there with a rag and bottles, debating and arguing with people over Israeli policy in Gaza while people are tended to some 10, 15 yards away as they were engulfed in flames. You can see, by the way, all of these images as well from other cell phone video from further away. But this is a horrific incident that happened here in Colorado, and unfortunately, one that symbolizes some of the greater issues and debates that we're having in politics, and something that we've seen metastasize much worse in Western Europe. While we speak, by the way, Paris is in flames. They're trying to quell the riots and celebratory violence taking place after Paris Saint-Germain won the Champions League this weekend. That incident in Paris has led to something like 542 arrests, 2 deaths, and incredible property damage all across Paris. It is not completely untethered to the debate in Western Europe over multiculturalism. This is not simply a celebration of the likes of which you see in Philadelphia or Minnesota, although I don't think there's been many championships in Minnesota of recent vintage, where cars are flipped, sometimes things are set on fire, in extreme cases in Philadelphia, insane fans climb street lamps or eat horse excrement. Yes, that happened in Philadelphia. No, this is a different level of riots and violence taking place in Europe. And many are pointing to it's the changing nature of Paris, the changing demographics of Paris. And that is something that we have to consider and talk about when we look at something as awful as happened in Boulder, Colorado. We have had unfettered illegal immigration for the better part of 5 years. And that illegal immigration is not just people flowing over the southern border of the United States. It's refugee programs. It is legal immigrants who overstay their visas and become illegal immigrants. It is mass migration without considering cultural integration, assimilation, buy-in to American values. Now, whether or not you have a debate with Israeli policy in Gaza is almost beside the point. The point is whether or not you bring in someone who has a ideology and mindset of anti-Semitism, or better yet, even one that turns to violence when their political or ideological issues are not heard or don't take the shape or the outcome or the answer that they want. They make a makeshift Molotov cocktail and attack people in Boulder, Colorado. This is also fed by the changing rhetoric, one would have to say over the last 10 years on American college campuses, where we have radical ideology and anti-Semitism merging into insanity, often fed by faculty, staff, academia, professors. But then tail wags the dog, students take charge, and it gets out of control. We saw that metastasize in Washington, D.C., where instead of an illegal immigrant or somebody coming from an ideology that does not fit with Western values, it was students of Western values adopting those ideologies as taught onto college campuses. You have this horrible mix in the United States of illegal immigration and indoctrination that have we seen increasingly over the past couple of months turn into violence. What we should be taking it as is a turn of a warning, a canary in the coal mine. This is a path we are headed down, and it is not a path of the unknown. It is predictable. Down this coal mine, we know where you end up. And as part of that picture, you can see where they have ended up in Paris. I know throughout my life I have, and I'm sure that any of you have listening and watching have as well, romanticized and dreamed about your own business, small business, entrepreneurship, the American dream. But what does it take to succeed? Well, the truth is, it takes shoveling shit. That's the name of a new book, and we talked to Mike and Cass Lazerow, the authors, next on The Will Cain Show. Hey, I'm a dad, and I'll be honest, Father's Day doesn't need to be complicated, okay? You want to make dad happy? Give him some time. Give him a little love and attention. Give him a steak. Not any steak either. How about Omaha steaks? A recent survey says 75% of Americans agree there's no better way to spend Father's Day than grilling with your family. I couldn't agree more. As a dad, my wife was out of town last week. I told you I was going to do this. I didn't lie. What did I do? I pulled out some Omaha steaks, smash burgers, made them for me and my 14-year-old son, did the whole thing, by the way, from freezer to cleanup, done in 45 minutes, and sat there and listened to him say to me, these are really good burgers. I said, I know. Thank you. Omaha Steaks has been America's original butcher since 1917. That's 5 generations of family-owned quality. They deliver USDA-certified tender steaks, grass-fed, grain-finished beef, and even their new smash burgers, which I'm telling you out, are built for the grill. Everything is perfectly aged, hand-cut by master butchers, and backed by a 100% money-back guarantee. I keep them in my freezer all the time. They're that good. High quality, super convenient, and easiest gift to give when you want to impress. They also offer amazing chicken, pork, seafood, desserts, even easy comfort meals. So whatever dad likes, you'll find it. This Father's Day, give dad the world's best steak experience with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for guaranteed perfect gifts that deliver legendary quality. And you get an extra $35 off if you use the promo code WILL at checkout. Be an awesome dad and be celebrated on Father's Day. Like me. That's omahasteaks.com. An extra $35 off with the promo code WILL at checkout. See site for details. It's hard work being an entrepreneur. Next on The Will Cain Show. I can tell you the most stressful moments of my life as an entrepreneur. I can tell you the biggest failures I've had as an entrepreneur. It's actually harder for me to pin down the success. It is the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel, on the Fox News Facebook page. Hit subscribe at Apple or on Spotify. Mike and Cass Lazerow are entrepreneurs and investors. They co-founded golf.com and Buddy Media, and they have a brand new book out. It's entitled, which I think I will say one time, just so that my producers don't have to beep it out every time, Shoveling Shit, a love story about the entrepreneur's messy plan to success. See, the problem, Mike and Cass, is when you title your book this way, now I've got to figure out, what am I going to say? Ish? Am I going to say crap? What am I going to do? Because not that I'm a prude, but my poor producers have to beep it out every time I say it.
Yeah, no, we get it, but we also think that entrepreneurs deserve the brutal, honest truth. And so we went for it and we threw in a lot of crap.
There's been some models of success for that type of book title. I've seen some others escaping my memory right now, but I bought one of them. It has the F word in the title. What was the name of that book?
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's a bestseller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about this. Tell me about what is the best way to start this conversation, Cass? How about this? Okay, you started several businesses together as a married couple. You've had several successes. If you were both on the therapist couch right now, what's the lowest moment of the entire ride?
I think the lowest moment is always towards the end when you're rushing. So I remember with both our companies, golf.com and Buddy Media, you are just trying to survive every day. We call entrepreneurship, just the struggle. It's a struggle. There's beauty in it. And that's obviously where we find our purpose and passion, but it is a struggle. It's like playing golf. You have, 90 awful shots and you have one incredible chip in and it keeps you coming back. So the lowest points for us have really been around when we're so busy, we're not as connected because, we're just both trying to survive all the work that's due. And if your family suffers, that's the low point.
So, Mike, I think in the book, you guys focus in on this moment with golf.com where not everything went on the successful linear path that you thought it was going to. I have been an entrepreneur in two businesses at much smaller scale and much smaller success than you guys have been involved in. But my first thing is when I was 25, I bought a community newspaper group. So it was like 3 newspapers. I wanted to be in this, and I was so young and so stupid. It's funny, I was just talking about this recently with a bunch of friends. The way I fired, the way I managed employees, before I knew it, I was doing every job all day long. I mean, when I say all day long, I'm not like bragging about the hours I put in. Like, it never turned off. I lost so much weight. I was literally reporting, putting labels on newspapers, every single job. And I look back at that, and I would love to say it was glorious. Like, it actually really sucked. Like, it sucked at that time to be doing that, just 100% fueled by stress of bank loans and failure.
Yeah. So, entrepreneurs love to suffer. And it's not easy. You open up Instagram, there are guys driving Lamborghinis, sleeping in their, parents' basement. And we have this kind of glorification of entrepreneurship. We've been doing it for 30 years, and we've had some lows and tons of lows. And when I say we've had some lows, every day pretty much has lows. Clients want to cancel. You're running out of money. Your employees are pissed off. Inside that work, the best entrepreneurs learn to love it. That's why this is a love story. Shoveling Bleep, a love story, is our love story. But it's the idea that entrepreneurs who make it fall in love with the hard work. And that's where they find their purpose and their passion, which keeps them going, regardless of the idea that there's nothing guaranteed. If you want something guaranteed, I guess go get a job. But even that, you'll probably get laid off. So there are no guarantees. We have something called the Go Gauge, which is in the book, which outlines how to analyze any business. We use it as an investor. We've invested in 100 companies, but we also recommend founders and entrepreneurs do it. And your most valuable asset's your time. And if you spend your time pursuing something that sucks or that just doesn't have a big market, you're going to be miserable. Community newspapers, I think, fast forward, not a huge market.
Yeah. That one was actually a success for me, but because I got out before
Congrats.
that. And I could tell you, but not just that, community newspapers have a retention of value different than daily newspapers in big markets. They haven't been as destroyed. They might be at this point, whatever it's been, 15 years later. No, but I'll tell you a quick story. This ties into what you guys have written about as well. So my second entrepreneurial business was a failure. Well, the newspapers were a success, and that is I started a event and magazine company for quinceañeras. I modeled it after the Knot. I don't know how long you guys have been married, but do you remember the Knot?
We do
Oh, yeah.
remember the
Very
night.
It was wedding planning company. Yeah,
Yeah, of
I
course.
modeled it after them. And quinceañeras are a Latina thing. I was getting married about the time my wife would bring home the Knot, and I was like, "This thing is 80% ads. This is incredible." And it's the editorial content. But the long and short of it is, for a variety of reasons, including what you just talked about, Mike, like the potential upside of it, it didn't survive and work. And when I failed, then I had to ask myself, what did you spend your time on? And for me, the answer was 15-year-old Hispanic girls. And I've always made this joke: if that's truly what I'm passionate about, I should probably be reported to the FBI. But I knew that I had to stop focusing on the outcome at the end of that, after that failure, the exit, whatever it was, that I had to love the everyday of it, right? I just had to love whatever it is I did next, which led me down this career path. I had to love, as you talk about, both of you, like, honestly, the shit of the job that encompasses your day.
Definitely. I mean, that's really what it is. I mean, if you think about a founder, you are literally jumping. It's like jumping off an airplane, right? And there's no guarantee. You've basically have all your hopes and dreams written on the back of a napkin. And the thing that entrepreneurs can do is focus, right? You just talked about it. The biggest thing that you can do is focus, because all you have is your time. So you better get that focus correct. And we have in our book a great mechanism and framework for focusing and helping entrepreneurs understand. And that is the number one tip that we can give entrepreneurs.
But, interestingly, you guys write about, I used a word and I caught myself when I was talking to you about what I'm passionate about. I said that. I feel like also the older I've gotten, and you guys have talked about this, we've probably as a society overemphasized passion, right? Like,
agreed.
To love what you do, this type of thing. Work is work for a reason. And you guys even wrote about purpose. Like, and I'm a big believer, purpose is not necessarily found in your job. Like, there's a lot of ways in life to find your purpose. So what is it we are doing with our work? How do we find that thing that we're motivated to do regardless of the outcome, as you both talk about?
You got to follow your talent, Will. Like I tell this to all college age kids. Figure out what you're good at, right? Really understand your strengths, and then be aware of your weaknesses so you can kind of fill in your gaps with people around you. But at the end of the day, following your passion might not lead to the income you need to live the life that you want. So if you want to find purpose, really concentrate on your talents and then overlay that with the different jobs that you want to try it on. Now, all of us can have hobbies and passions on the side that kind of fill our cup. But really what we've got to start telling everybody out there is follow their talents.
Yeah, and not to get too philosophical, but also I think there's you find your purpose in your relationship with God or your relationship with the world. And then you guys talk about your relationship with each other. So when and I know that's a big part of this. That's part of the love story, Mike. By the way, the newspaper thing, I did that with my wife. So I know a little bit what it is to work with your wife. And it's got a lot of pros and some challenges, obviously. And I know you guys have, and you write about it really honestly in this book as well, taking all that home, separating those two lives.
I mean, listen, like picking the wrong partner is more dangerous than picking the wrong idea. Opportunities are everywhere, but true partners, real partners that you want to spend every day with building, that's very rare. And the only thing I got right in life is finding the partner who had very different skill sets. She thinks in spreadsheets. I think in screenplays. She's very organized. I am not. She's an introvert. I'm much more of an extrovert. And we just complement each other. And so the best partners are able to work together to have each other's back. And at the end of the day, do what they say they're going to do. And so business partners that get it right, talk about that partnership as a marriage, right? You look at kind of people like, Rich Bressler and Bob Pittman, who've worked together for 40 years now at, in the radio business at iHeart. They talk about it as that is my work husband, right? And what that means is how you communicate, how you complement. And it's more like jazz. It's improvised. It's fluid. It's always in sync. And I think when marriages are in sync, they're the most rewarding thing in the world. And when they're not, it feels awful.
And do you guys think, let's set business aside for a moment, and we're talking about entrepreneurship, and it takes all of this shoveling crap. But you do talk about your marriage as well. Do you think that's the same lesson for a successful marriage? That the truth of it is, we make all these movies about, romance and love, but a successful marriage is together shoveling all of this crap.
I definitely think so. I mean, if you think about any team, let's just think about any team out there, you've got to have complementary skills, right? Because every human out there is going to have weaknesses, right? And so if you can find a partner that fills in your gaps, I think that's when the magic happens. It happens in life, it happens in business. And I think that's when you're able to really do a lot and feel at peace. Now, the problem is sometimes when you have very different skill sets in a marriage is you got to make sure you still have that communication, right? So that's something that Mike and I have been very, very good at since we started dating and starting our first company while we were dating. We really kind of like learned the habits back then.
You guys did that while you were dating?
Yes.
You weren't even married yet?
Yep.
Wow.
We did that. We were dating. Yep.
We don't recommend that. So that is not at one of the 50 cheat codes. We were young and knew nothing. I was 22. I was in love with Cass. I loved how she thought. I loved that she was doing the internet business, which was, this is the late 90s. We got lucky. We got lucky that we could work together. At the end of the day, when you start a business, there's a honeymoon period, right? You haven't talked to customers. It's just exciting, right? You're not working behind the desk 9 to 5. And then you start talking to customers and they say, yeah, no, thanks. And then you start going through this phase of like, oh, everyone's saying no. And it's not dissimilar to like you're dating, it's euphoric. And then you got to deal with life, and how you deal with life together is really what makes it successful or not. It's not how you go through the euphoric times.
Right. There's something I'm curious about your entrepreneurial story, which I know you write about as well in this book, and that is the growth path of golf.com. So, I am fascinated, first of all, philosophically or psychologically and then economically, that the biggest mistake of every prognosticator, whatever we're talking about, sports, economy, politics, is that the future is always just a bigger version of the present, whatever that is. If it's negative or positive, it's always a bigger version of the present. And it sounds like when you were talking about golf.com and the myth of linear growth, that's kind of where you were led, that the future looked like a bigger version of the present. And what's interesting to me about this is you were probably at a stage in your business where you felt some sense of relief. You were still shoveling, but you at least saw there was payoff happening. And then that's when the hammer drops.
Yeah. So golf.com, let's not forget, like we bought it in 2000, and this was as the whole .com business was imploding. And so we had a business that, when I started off on the internet, there were only 20 million people on the internet. There was a total of like less than 200 million spent on ads, the year that we launched golf.com. And so we didn't get into it for the money, but we knew the internet was here to stay. Like we knew it was going to be big. And we built it up. We sold the business to a Sequoia-backed company that was going public. Then that company went bankrupt. We had to buy it back. And we learned more in that failure. So how to communicate with our investors, how to not shine the you-know-what, how to take responsibility for your decisions, and how to just shovel to get yourself out of a hole. And we look back, and that was a much, much, much more kind of learning experience than even growing Buddy Media to $1 billion exit. And we've since gone on to back very early pre-launch companies like Liquid Death and Scopely, which sold for $5 billion. And it always starts somewhere and they pivot to find where they need to go. And, all I'm going to say is the one advice that I've taken from Mark Benioff, which I use every day, is do more of what's working and less of what isn't working. And we oftentimes find ourselves doing the opposite. Now, your audience is going to think I'm crazy for saying something so obvious, but if they think about their life, there are things that they're doing that's toxic, that's wasting money, that's creating relationships that aren't rewarding, and they just continue doing it. So do less of that.
That's that's a little bit akin to something else that I actually think I saw this on Oprah. I'm trying to think what, really heady book that I read or something, but it was somebody who was on Oprah that was saying, so much of our life is devoted to shoring up our own weaknesses, analyzing it, because we think we want to be an all-around player, right? And I think you guys have written about this. You can only be great at one thing at a time. But even outside the world of entrepreneurship, right? I think we all think about our weaknesses a lot, and how do we shore those up and make ourselves. And on Oprah, this guy said, "Stop, pour your energy and stuff and time and resources into your strengths. Lean into your strengths."
Sounds like Gary V.
Yeah.
It wasn't Gary V. I know Gary. I think it was pre-Gary. It may have been Dr. Oz, who I don't know, but it was somebody.
Definitely
ahead,
agree.
Cass.
I do believe so. I was a trained athlete growing up. So I have a mentality of like always wanting to improve. So I think you can actually have both, but you're absolutely correct that we should be focusing on our talents and figuring out how those can make the biggest impact, right? While also saying, okay, what kind of life do I want to have? What kind of income do I need? And then meshing those. But too many people spend all of their time going, okay, here are my weaknesses, and just giving it all the energy. And it's just not necessary.
It is. I still think you got to improve. I still think you have to. I'm just
agree.
thinking about my conversation with my son. You still need to. Did you? I don't know if you guys were on at the top of the show. My son has his first internship this summer.
That story.
Yeah,
love this story.
Did he showed up a week early, Mark? Mike, would you fire him? I mean,
no, I wouldn't, because it shows that he's eager, that he's excited. I mean, if you expect a 21, 22-year-old kid, 19-year-old kid to have executive
17.
functioning skills, even 17, you don't expect them to have their executive functioning skills set, but you expect them to show up, be eager. And if someone showed up a week early, I'd be like, dude, come hang out. Let's learn. Like if you're this hungry, come in, grab a seat, watch what I'm doing. Let's start the process, and please have your son call me. I'd love the story.
And also, like, Will, the big thing is, which is so great, is like we've got to get people showing back up in person and showing these young kids what it's like to be in a work environment. So I love that he shows up early. I love that he wanted to be there early. I love it.
Well, thank you. Somehow I can't turn this into a victory for him. I've got to figure out how to communicate this in a positive way. You can call Mike and Cass, and maybe it all led to a relationship for you, but you got to read your emails closer too. That's got to be the lesson.
That's definitely true.
He deserves to be the butt of a joke or two. Like, you got to have fun with it, right? But at the end of the day, someone who shows up early, who's so excited, who looks good, who's ready to work, game on.
And it's also a safe fail, It's a safe fail.
I think it is a safe fail. That's true.
Yeah.
I want to go back to entrepreneurship for a minute. Okay. I had a conversation with some of my bosses at Fox today. It was about our social media strategy. And, I said this, and I mean this. This is how I think about my life. But I said, look, I don't want to be a high salaried television personality. I think of everything I do entrepreneurially. It's all a project. We're all building it together. Otherwise, I'm not motivated. It's just, I think, and tell me if you guys think I'm wrong, everybody's going to have to feel that way in the economy that we're about to enter. I just think the job economy is the biggest economy under threat from artificial intelligence. And I don't think everybody can be an entrepreneur, but increasingly, look, I'm not an entrepreneur, but you have to approach your job entrepreneurially. Otherwise, I don't know how we survive in the new AI economy.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that that's going to be what drives entrepreneurship. And when we talk about entrepreneurship, we're not talking about tech companies. We're talking about pizzerias. I want to open up 10 pizza places, cutting hair, service companies. And the issue with kind of AI is that a lot of the jobs, especially entry-level jobs, are gone. Yours is safe. And a lot of, I think, people who have been able to get out there have a point of view. But you have to figure out how you can build, because we're in a golden age of building. And that building, it looks nothing like our parents imagined. We're not talking about building real estate. We're not talking about building kind of analog businesses. We're in this digital, social, cultural world, and the tools to build are cheaper, faster, and more powerful than ever. And so you can sit back and be a victim, or you could stand up and be a volunteer to get to the future faster. And if you can get to the future faster, you can win. What does the future mean? It means you know how to get things done. You know how to communicate. You know how to tell your story. You know how to think, right? Like a lot of people don't give themselves time to think for, very good reasons, kids, work, everything. But you have to think like an entrepreneur. We talk to companies all the time, and it's how can you turn your company, even if you're Exxon, into a startup?
Okay, last thing. I know you guys have to go here. Cass, I'm curious. Do you guys have kids?
Yes, we have three. We have three kids.
Okay. In some ways, I think you can think of your investments in your companies as your children. The question is, do you think of your children as your investments in your companies as well? Like I'm curious how you guys, I'm familiar with Jesse Itzler and, his wife, and I see a lot of their social and like how they do their, I'm just curious, as serial entrepreneurs, successful, and just as importantly, investors and things like liquid death, as you pointed out, Mike, how do you've communicated this to a wider audience here with your book. Do you feel like that you've been able to successfully raise, and don't throw any kids under the bus. I'm not like, can you impart that over the dinner table, or some of this innate? It's who they are. They have a risk tolerance. They don't have a risk tolerance. They have vision. They don't have a vision. Can you invest in your children in the same way as your companies?
What's funny is that I used to think, because I love building teams, I used to think I could take those skills and come back and kind of create that same harmony and synchronization with my three kids who have very different personalities. And the truth is, it doesn't work at all. So all these great skills I have at work, it's very different at home. But I will say this, one of the things that Mike and I have noticed, and we have a 23-year-old, 21-year-old, and 18-year-old, is that we can talk to them and say what they should and shouldn't do, but that goes in and out of 1 year, right? What we've done very well is lead by example. And so when you ask me, like, do you think about your kids as an investment? If I did, I would tell you there's very little ROI on kids if you really, really want to think about it. But what you can do is
hopefully they're not listening.
They've heard me say this, is lead by example, right? I mean, and show them what it's like. Like one of the things Mike and I've done for 30 years is work out. Now all three kids work out, right? Things like that.
Yeah.
So I think what we've shown them, even though it's been very hard and they've seen us, in some phases of our life, not as much as others, is that work is, hard work is a virtue. And it counts, and effort counts.
Well, Mike, if they're listening, here's what I would say. That ROI, you're still even at 22, 21, and 18, whatever it was, you're still in the startup phase. Like, let the business mature a little bit. We'll see when the ROI starts to come in here a couple of years down the road. Maybe a couple decades. Maybe not a couple decades.
Maybe it's the grandparent phase.
The book is Shoveling Shit, a love story about the entrepreneur's messy path to success. It's Mike and Kaz Lazerow. I encourage you to go check it out. Really cool, and it's a great conversation. I appreciate you guys being on with us here today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Love you so much. Thanks for the support.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, take care. Go check out the book. I'm not going to say the title. This time I'll say Shoveling-ish, a love story about the entrepreneur's messy path to success. Okay, when we come back, trans athlete does really well in California, CIF finals. Led to a lot of debate. I want to share with you this debate. It's amazing that occurred on CNN, and I think it's going to highlight so much of this conversation. I'm going to play it for you when we come back on The Will Cain Show. The Dallas Mavericks have said they will not trade the number 1 overall pick. They will draft Cooper Flagg. But if you did consider it, just out of curiosity, what could you get? It is The Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel and the Fox News Facebook page. Story out of California. CIF, that's their Interscholastic Athletic Administration, held their track and field championships over the weekend. Heading into this, there was controversy about the CIFs allowing transgender athletes to participate. And, even that, okay, we have to speak clearly. Males participating in female sports. Because it doesn't happen the other way, right? Trans athletes is like, it doesn't happen that girls join boys' sports and this becomes an issue. It only happens the other way. We're being real here. One particular athlete, A.B. Hernandez, got second. So the CIF in the state of California's accommodation of the Trump administration's executive order that you will not do this is that basically everyone else will receive medals and placement as though the trans athlete were not in the competition, but the trans athlete will also receive. So if the trans athlete gets second, okay, they're getting the silver. But the person that got third is also going to get second. You see what I'm saying? They're not. It's a compromise that really doesn't work for anybody. And it's led to this massive debate. Okay, A.B. Hernandez, I believe, got second. I believe I'm right on that in California. But it led to this fascinating debate that highlights so much on CNN. This was just fascinating. I think this took place on Friday on CNN. Now, it's CNN host Breonna Keeler, who a friend and former co-host of mine used to call poopy pants. And I only say that because as you listen and watch this, I just think it doesn't get more accurate. And two-a-days, do you have the name of the person? Because I went and followed this person as well. Do you have the name of the person that she is having this interview with?
Yes, it's in the clip. Apologies.
Yeah, because I want to share this with the audience because this is a masterful.
Julie Hamill. She's president of the California Justice Center.
Yes. Okay, and Julie does an awesome job. I'm gonna play this for you through a couple of clips. So first of all, this is what was about a 5-minute interview, and this is early on. I want you to listen to how the guest has to translate in her head everything said by the host.
What would make this fair for her to compete for those who are competing against her? What would that kind of structure in competition look like?
Who is her?
A.B.
Okay, A.B. Hernandez is a male who identifies as a female. What would be fair is to have Hernandez competing in the male category. It is not fair to the females competing to have to compete with a male.
Okay, so in Trump's federal funding threat, is that something, though, that would hurt all student athletes, including athletes who are assigned female at birth?
Would his federal funding threat hurt athletes?
If the money is taken away.
Right. So the law actually says that schools that do not abide Title IX or other federal laws cannot receive federal funds. So that's not Trump's fault.
She goes on to say it's the state of California's fault for not abiding by an executive order. Listen to how she has to first of all the pronouns, her, when talking about A.B. Hernandez. And, you know, you watch this, you listen, Hamill is not being, what's the word in Shawshank Redemption that he uses? Don't be what? She's not being, is it obsequious? She's not being intentionally stupid. She's not intentionally not trying to understand Keeler. It takes a minute to process what you're talking about because you're flipping your pronouns around in such a way that it's impossible to understand the debate at hand. If they're all hers, it's not a debate. You see what I mean? So we're all having to do this, not just in this interview. We're all having to play this, and everyone listening, even if you disagree with me, you are having to do this mental gymnastics in your head to take something that someone says, process it, run it through your filter of political correctness, arrive at understanding the truth, and then you make a choice of whether to spit it back out in the same way you received it or through unvarnished truth. And so I go, oh, it's easy. It's not easy. You're doing it. And maybe you're really fast because you've really conditioned yourself to make sure that you use the right pronouns. But you're having the quote-unquote right pronouns. You're having to do this gymnastics, and you can hear Hamill, and it's just, to me, it just shows the nature of the dishonesty of this conversation. And the dishonesty is only continued, as Keeler says, She clarifies it as Trump's threats, right, to take away funding. Well, that's a very negative way to. Trump signed an executive order to say women's sports are for women. And if you do not abide by the executive order, you will no longer be eligible through Title IX to receive federal funding. Well, now Trump is threatening, according to Keeler, all athletes, including those, she says, assigned female at birth. And again, that makes, there's a buffer, a lag. Hamill has to process it all. Trump's threats hurts all athletes? Is she has to kind of internalize what Keeler is saying, try her best to understand it. And Keeler lives in this world where she's playing this 1984 newspeak. That's what this is. It's newspeak from George Orwell. And you have to process it, translate it, make your decision on if you're going to play the same game or be a blunt truth teller, to which Hamill's answer is yes, she's going to be a blunt truth teller, and good on her. But none of that robs Keeler of her condescension. She is so speaking down the bridge of her nose to Hamill. Here, watch her when she says and chides her to stick to sports. Third.
What he can do is compete in the male category.
Okay,
or
let's
if
stick to
CIF
sports. So you say compete in the male category or what?
Or if the state and CIF want to create a separate category for people like A.B. Hernandez, and that's something that they want to do, fine. It is not fair to female athletes who have worked their entire lives for this kind of competition, who also, by the way, cannot speak out for fear of retaliation, which A.B. Hernandez's mother has personally threatened against them. So it's very unfair for our girls and women in California to have to compete with males, have to share facilities with males, and then not be able to speak up about the unfairness because people are going to label them as bigots.
So right there at the beginning of that clip, you could hear Keeler say, stick to sports. You know, what did Hamill do? What did she say? It's actually in clip two days, that Hamill makes her argument that, and it's, by the way, it's getting to the core of the issue and it's getting to the truth that prompts Keeler to chastise her to stick to sports. Here's clip 2.
There are obviously clear benefits to playing sports, to competing in sports. So when you're looking at an athlete like A.B. Hernandez, what would you have her do so that she can benefit from sporting?
I view A.B. Hernandez as the victim in this situation. I feel for him, and I feel that he has been lied to for his entire life, and it's probably very destabilizing and difficult for him right now to realize that what he's been told is not actually reality. He cannot become a girl.
And that's when Keeler interrupts and goes, let's stick to sports. But that's the whole issue right there, as Hamill lays it out. That's it. Like all this, you can hear the pronoun war they're involved in. But also, like, sporting. Does anybody, 2 days, you ever use the word sporting? I know it's like actually, like, I ask you, so have you, Tinfoil. We've all been in sports and around sports for a long time. And it's like grammatically correct, but I don't think I've ever heard a Dan Patrick or a Colin Coward or a Will Cain was able to say sporting is really good for people. Like, sporting as a verb.
Is it right?
I think grammatically it is.
Athleticing?
You used to have the sporting news, so
yeah.
I would assume
sporting is really good for people.
It reminds me of, like, you're a sporting chap, you know, that kind of thing.
She does that. Like, I mean, I don't take away from it. She's the hugest sports fan. Sporting is really good for people. So what would you have A.B. Hernandez do? Compete against the dudes.
Yeah.
That's what I would have A.B. Hernandez do. Compete against the dudes. Pretty simple.
What about a separate category, like she said?
Fine. But everybody says what I said. Fine, because we don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if A.B. Hernandez goes and loses to the dudes. I don't care if this third category exists, which I don't even know because it's about. I mean, I don't care. I don't support it. and I'm not going to fight it. It still undercuts the idea that there's men's and women's sports because there are men and women. That's what the issue is. But the biggest injustice is the men participating in women's sports. And everyone listening knows it. By the way, another part of the interview, Keeler's like, well, the evidence on this and the science is still so in its infancy stages. And, don't you agree we need a lot of more research? No, we've got thousands of years of humanity to know this. Okay, we know that men are better at almost every sport. I say almost. What is a sport where women are better? Could you say ice skating?
Golf is pretty close. I mean, you're not hitting as long, but
No, it's not. What are you talking about?
around the green, 150 yards in, doesn't really matter.
What are you talking about?
Just gotta get out of here with that.
Are you
brunch
trolling or do you
crowd.
believe that?
I don't really believe that. I'm just saying the short game, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman.
Is there a sport where women are better than men? I'm not being a jerk. I'm serious. Like, I'm trying. Like, do men do more athletic things
Curling?
at ice skating or diving? I don't know.
I'm just trying to think of things that are more.
Gymnastics?
Curling.
Gymnastics.
But men do, like,
Ooh, that's close. Well, no, but
they do different events, though, right? Like, they don't even, and what do they do that's the same? There's not a men's floor routine.
uneven bars.
Right?
They do the same.
But they're probably smaller and more compact and tighter.
No, don't men do a single high bar?
You might be right.
They don't do an uneven bar. Men, they do a single high bar.
I thought I saw men do uneven.
Pommel horse?
before.
Pommel horse.
Pommel horse they do.
Oh,
Balance beam.
Men do balance beam?
do men do the balance beam? I don't think they do the balance beam. We're bringing a lot of expertise to sporting.
But Brianna's point, though, there was that undergoing surgery and estrogen, treatments, does that make the playing field a little more even? That's what she was kind of saying. Which
It
is
does
also
not make a man
It's a ridiculous argument.
a woman.
But yeah.
It doesn't make a man a woman. Conferred with all the benefits, including muscle density, bone density, the effects of puberty, even without puberty. You have lowered the quantity of testosterone in someone. That is but one element of the things that make a man a man. And being a man comes with being, on average, bigger, stronger, faster. And that is sports. That's simple. Bigger, stronger, faster. And great, A.B. Hernandez needs the benefits of sporting. Okay, have the third category. Or join the men's part and compete over there and learn the benefits of failure. There are benefits to failure. It's not all about success. You can compete. And you're probably not going to be in the finals. And you can learn a lot from that as well, rather than going and dominate the girls. I think that segment right there shows exactly the lost. This is by the way, what is this, an 80-20 issue, 85-15, 90-10 issue for Americans? And it just shows how far one person and one media organization go completely out of touch, to the point of manipulating their own, not just language, but thoughts. Go ahead, 2 days.
I just researched a little bit on gymnastics. The two routines that men and women do are the vault and the floor exercise. Those are the only two.
Do women not do pommel horse?
No,
I guess they don't.
They do. What was that? They do vaulting.
They do
instead.
balance beam. You just said both do vault and floor exercise.
You're right. I just counted myself. I'm on cold medication. Give me a break.
All right. Okay, let's lighten it up here before we go today. So, read a fascinating article today. The Dallas Mavericks will not trade Cooper Flagg. They're not interested in the first overall pick being traded. They want to draft Cooper Flagg. You got him for the next 9 years, essentially, by rookie contract and the benefits conferred on an existing team to re-sign their stud. But there was an article saying, what could you get, though, if you did? So I want to see if any of this intrigues you guys at all. Would you be interested in trading him for the following couple of proposals? The first comes from the San Antonio Spurs. These are hypothetical proposals, and see if it does anything for you. The Spurs would get the number 1 overall pick. The Mavericks would get the number 2 overall pick, which the Spurs currently have. They'd also get the 14th pick this year. A 2027 first rounder that was the Atlanta Hawks. So if the Hawks are bad, you got a better shot, right? And a 2030 pick swap. So you get the higher of the two with the Spurs. So essentially, everyone thinks Dylan Harper from Rutgers is the number 2 overall pick. Would you take Dylan Harper, whoever comes in at number 14, and 2 other high-ish first-round picks in exchange for Cooper Flagg? Would you do it?
No. I mean, this draft's pretty weak. I don't know much about Dylan, but I just think you need Cooper Flagg. He's a game changer for an organization.
Now, let me add this. The Celtics had the number 1 overall pick, and they traded it. I believe it was to the Sixers, who took Markelle Fultz, and the Celtics took Jason Tatum 3rd overall. Worked out for the Celtics on this kind of deal. Now, I don't think Cooper Flagg is Markelle Fultz.
No.
But you're dropping down one spot, and you're asking yourself, is Flagg that much better than Dylan Harper to get all these other assets to go along with it?
Yeah.
Tinfoil?
I don't know a ton about basketball, but I did used to listen to the Bill Simmons podcast a lot, and I think he's always right that you always go for the dollar over the quarters. You know, I think like you pick the superstar when you know he's a superstar, and you know you don't risk gambling
unless he's Greg Oden.
Right.
So I know exactly what you're saying. I love that theory that Bill Simmons has, that in basketball, a dollar is worth more than 4 quarters. So you want the one big $1 bill. You don't want all these varied assets. Now, the counter argument to that is right now, the NBA Finals, Oklahoma City Thunder, Indiana Pacers. The Thunder traded Paul George, he'd be the dollar bill in this scenario, to the Clippers and got back Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who just won MVP, and a bunch of first-round picks, not all of which have hit, right? And they still have more to go, the Thunder. But one of those was Jalen Williams, who's a stud. So Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, for Paul George, by the way, is a win straight up for the Thunder. But they also got Jalen Williams and all these other assets. So that's the counter-argument. But I'm with you as well. I'd take Cooper Flagg, not this varied set of assets.
I think when it comes to sports, there are exceptions to rules, and I think that's an exception. But it's like, you know, you don't invest in a running back after the age of 28. You know, well, we just saw that didn't work out. You know, it worked out for certain NFL teams with Saquon Barkley and, you know, and the Ravens, and you know, we got some exceptions this time. But I you know, I think 9 times out of 10, I wouldn't trade Flagg for, you know, a bunch of ancillary.
Here's 2 more quick scenarios, and this is where you get dollar bills in return, okay? The Cleveland Cavaliers get the number 1 overall pick, Cooper Flagg. They also get a host of other assets, including P.J. Washington and Daniel Gafford from the Mavs. They get some stuff from the Lakers and the Bulls. The Lakers and Bulls get pulled into this, but the gist of it, the Cavs get Cooper Flagg. The Mavericks get Donovan Mitchell, a 2031 first-round pick, a 2028 first-round pick swap, and a 2030 first-round pick swap. So you're going to get 3 draft pick advantages, one of which is a full pick, and Donovan Mitchell.
I don't think, I mean,
now, Cooper Flagg's a bit of projection. Mitchell is a real value. You know what he is.
I don't know, but getting rid of Luka recently, you don't want to kind of just start over and have these late draft picks. You want to start with something and kind of fill in a Luka role right now. Donovan Mitchell's not that, but Cooper Flagg can be, maybe.
Right.
So no.
So also, how long has Mitchell been in the league?
A long time. But he's like, I think he's like 30.
But you're but
he's a stud now.
Yeah, but you're sacrificing all that time that you have with Flagg. You have 9 years essentially. Yeah. So
he's 28.
You can literally build around him like multiple, like we talked about, multiple periods of championship runs with Flagg, whereas you might have one with Mitchell.
Does this entice you anymore? Mavericks and Suns is the last one. Mavericks get Devin Booker, a 2025 first rounder, a 2028 first rounder, a 2029 first rounder. Some of those are swaps. The Suns get number 1, Klay Thompson, PJ Washington, Najee Marshall. So you get Booker instead of Donovan Mitchell. Now, the reason you would do these deals is what Nico Harrison has said. We're going to win a championship in the next 2 to 3 years. That's our goal with Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving. And now we get this third stud, Devin Booker, or Donovan Mitchell.
I don't know. I don't see it.
I think we're all out.
What about this one?
Nico doing
it's fun.
Ricky LaFleur threw out in the chat. He said, what about the number 3 pick with Philly for Joel Embiid and some picks for a trade? So you get the number 3 pick this year and get Joel Embiid.
No.
No? Still no?
Well, the Mavericks don't need a front court.
True.
Anyway. They need back court. They've already got 2 centers,
Anthony,
2 power forwards, 3 power forwards. They don't need, even though Cooper Flagg will probably play, small forward, power forward. Mm-hmm. And also Joel Embiid doesn't play. And Joel Embiid is who's the category he's in? I hate to say this about Josh Allen, but he's in the superstar who hasn't got over the hump to carry his team to a championship. In part because he doesn't play.
He's even questionably a superstar now.
Yeah.
Let me get started on Josh Allen.
And then I'm dropping. And I love Josh Allen too. I love him. It's not. I'm not trying to knock Josh Allen.
I know, but I'm saying
fan.
like Josh Allen literally came within 30 seconds of making a Super Bowl. It's not his fault that there was a fluke play, and
just
Tyreek Hill
saying.
made a.
Until he wins it, he will be in that category. He will be in the Charles Barkley category.
Yeah.
Josh Allen will be. And I think he's great too. I love Josh Allen.
He will win.
That's the facts of life.
I have faith.
He will be in that category of best quarterbacks never to win it all.
But
if he doesn't do so.
Where is he if he does win one among quarterbacks?
Josh Allen?
Yeah.
It'll totally change his reputation.
Okay.
Like he will skyrocket up the lists. Skyrocket. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. It just is, So no thank you to Joel Embiid. No thank you to Devin Booker. No thank you to Donovan Mitchell. And no thank you to the host of assets from San Antonio Spurs. I want Cooper Flagg. I want the next 10 years of windows to compete for a championship with, by the way, a guy who's worth $500 million to $1 billion to the franchise and marketing value, the new face of the NBA, Cooper Flagg, as a Dallas Maverick. All right, that's going to do it for us today here on The Will Cain Show. We appreciate you hanging out. We hope you'll join us again tomorrow, same time, same place. I will see you again next time.